We hear a lot about identity theft, with the number of incidents rising as the economy, of course, gets worse. But there is one case with a bizarre twist. A California woman had her ID stolen and soon found money disappearing from her bank account. But when she reported it, she found herself behind bars, charged as a felon. NBC's Lee Cowan explains.
It was on a golf course near San Francisco last year when Margaret Somerville got a phone call that made her heart sink faster than a 3-foot putt.
Yay!
It was from police 950 miles away in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, who told her simply,
"You will be arrested."
And that's when you fell apart.
I absolutely fell apart. You ready?
At age 66, the grandmother and a retired vice president of Wells Fargo Bank was met by police at her front door and led away to jail in handcuffs.
It is the most frightening, horrible experience. Honestly, I cried probably for 24 straight hours out of fear.
She was booked on suspicion of felony identity theft, but what made her so incredulous is that she says she's the one who had her identity stolen from a streetcar right here in San Francisco. She said she told police, she told the bank, but there she stood, handcuffed, not the victim, but the suspect.
There was never any logic in any of this, but they just kept going after me and after me and after me.
Why? Police believe Margot was linked to this woman, caught on a bank surveillance camera 5 months after Margot's wallet disappeared. Police say she was passing stolen checks, withdrawing more than $60,000, not only out of Margot's account, but several other Wells Fargo customers too. But it was the handwriting on those forged checks that police found curious. Detectives say it looked just like Margot's, enough to charge her with 19 counts of identity theft and criminal impersonation. Margot's attorney says that's a connection that's almost laughable.
At no time did they ever find a link at all between Miss Somerville and this woman in Colorado.
Finally, after Margot spent more than $50,000 on legal fees, prosecutors dropped the charges, saying there wasn't a likelihood of a conviction. And Wells Fargo credited Margot's account for the money she says was stolen. But the Wheat Ridge Police Department told us because Margot may sue, it was, quote, not in a position to discuss the case.
To this day, they still think I did it.
A case of mistaken identity, she says, that cost her far more than a stolen wallet. For today, Lee Cowan, NBC News, San Francisco.
And Margot Somerville is here with her son, Todd Harris, who happens to be a contributor to MSNBC's Hardball with Chris Matthews, along with identity theft expert Jim Stickley. Good morning to all of you.
Morning.
You don't look like a crook to me. You're not one, are you? What I'm shaking my head over here, Margot, is that you did everything right. Okay, so you get your wallet stolen, you cancel your credit cards, you file a report with your bank, you file a report with the police, money gets taken out of your account, and you end up in handcuffs. What am I missing here?
I did a handwriting test, and from the handwriting test alone, they decided that I had written all these forged checks. They never looked into my bank accounts. They never looked at telephone records. It took them 2 years to fingerprint a check and find out that my fingerprints weren't on the check.
I can only imagine. Here's this retired vice president of a bank, and they call you and say, you are going to be arrested. When they showed up at your door, did they explain any of the evidence against you, or they just put you in handcuffs and take you away?
They just put me in handcuffs and took me out in front of all my neighbors, put me in a police car, and took me to jail.
And although this was, what, a 2-year ordeal? Is that what it was?
Yes.
$50,000 in legal bills?
Yes.
And although the charges were dropped not too long ago, you have a fear still that this may not be completely over.
The charges were dropped, but I am not convinced that they think that it's over, because they still think I did it.
You're sure of that?
That's what the police told the San Francisco Chronicle.
Basically, so they dropped the charges because they didn't think they could get a conviction, not because they're sure you're innocent.
Exactly.
Todd,
exactly.
At any point, when you're hearing this story, did you think, maybe my mom's living a double life?
I had to teach her how to cut and paste on the computer. I'm pretty sure she's not the ringleader of identity theft network.
What was your reaction when all this was happening?
You feel so helpless, and I was scared, for what would happen to my mom, but mostly I was angry. I was angry at the police and the DA for this Keystone Cop investigation, and I was angry at Wells Fargo, who I thought turned their back on my mom.
We've got statements from those people. Jefferson County District Attorney Scott Story says prosecutors determined we did not have a reasonable likelihood of a successful conviction and that dismissing the case was in the interest of justice. And from Wells Fargo, we're very pleased that information Wells Fargo provided to the authorities and to Ms. Somerville's attorney led to the charges against her being dropped. You're shaking your head.
Well, that's just not accurate.
No.
Not the way it went. Jim, she did everything right. Okay?
Absolutely everything.
She was the victim of identity theft. So how do you protect? This was obviously a major screw up. But how do you protect yourself?
Well, what she did is generally how you protect yourself. I mean, you make sure you know what's in your wallet. If your wallet's stolen, you make sure that you go ahead and contact the right people. If you have credit cards, you cancel those credit cards, you notify the police, you file a fraud alert. Everything she did is exactly what is supposed to work to solve the problem.
Did you do the right? Did you have your Social Security card in your wallet?
I did not.
You did not, so she did that right.
And I didn't have a check.
You didn't? All right, so this is obviously one of these unusual situations. The lesson to be learned here is that even sometimes when you do everything right, things can go terribly wrong?
Absolutely. I mean, she did exactly what you're supposed to do, and she still ended up in a nightmare.
Where you go from here?
I hope it's over, but I would like to get some of my legal fees back. Or all my
it's a
legal
lot of
fees
money.
Back.
That
It
is a
was
lot of cash.
money.
Margot, thanks for sharing your story.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it. Todd, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Jim, as always, good to see you.
Good to see you.